Welcome in to Locked On Knicks. Alex Wolf here, joined by special guest James Marceda. You might know him as the Provolone Ranger or the old host of Locked On Knicks because we just passed 1,500 episodes. Thought it was time to celebrate, so I brought James in to hang out for a bit. We're going to talk about the Knicks Raptors controversy that you probably heard about in the first segment, and then get into some truly unhinged mailbag questions that we got from across the internet. Coming up right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, and I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. I appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine, and make sure you hit that auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. We're still here for you guys like 4 to 5 times a week, even during the doldrums of the off season. So you want to make sure you never miss one of those episodes, especially this episode with special guest James Marceda. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find strick.land. He's James Marceda, former host of Locked On Knicks, the immediate predecessor to Gavin and I, and someone who is still probably much more popular with a certain segment of the fan base, even, oh my God, almost 5 years later. Because there's still, I swear, some iTunes reviews are like, oh, where did James go? Who are these clowns that they replaced him with? James, how are you?
I'm doing good. I bet, there are people now who are listening to Locked On Knicks who weren't alive when I was even the host. So.
You think there's some 5-year-olds, 4.5-year-olds?
That just made me think of the people who were like, there's literally like adults who weren't alive when 9/11 happened is like the big how old we are meme. So I was like thinking of that earlier. Like, is there actually possibly?
I have
how many of these 1,500 were you guys? Do you know? I have no.
We have been around. We have been around for episode 500, 1,000, and 1,500. Okay, I think when we came in, it was somewhere in like the 300s. I'm not 100%. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, it was like. Because it was about 2 years. Because like Dubin hosted it for the first year, and then you were like the next year and change.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I wasn't even that long. I'm like I don't even know what like the fifth Beatle, like the guy who got kicked out before.
But you left the lasting
really
impression.
Started.
People still bring you up to this day, man. And then then Gavin and I have been holding it down for damn near 5 years now, which is crazy.
Well, congratulations to you guys. That is that it is. It's hard for me to be serious, but that is like an impressive achievement. It's just from like a fucking work. Sorry for the cursing. Just from the work load standpoint. I mean, that's just an immense amount of hours that you guys have put in. So I am impressed. I almost had a breakdown after a season and a half. So
I've had multiple. Anyway, all right. Speaking of breakdowns, let's talk about how things are breaking down between the Knicks and the Raptors right now. Not that there was a steady foundation there to begin with, but I figure we're going to do 2 episodes together. So if you're listening today, come back tomorrow for some more James action. But we're going to talk about some weird crap that people asked us, like in the Strickland Discord and on Twitter and whatever. But before that, we should probably talk about some actual Knicks news. So Gavin and I haven't gotten into this Knicks Raptors thing yet. So the Knicks are suing the Raptors. That's cool. I have not heard his name spoken out loud properly, and I'm going to butcher it. But Ikechukwu Azatam, who worked for the Knicks from 2020 to 2023, was hired by the Raptors this offseason, and apparently, according to a lawsuit filed by the Knicks, sent the Raptors thousands of confidential files, including play frequency reports, a prep book for the 2022 to 23 season, video scouting files, opposition research, and more after the team began recruiting him to join their organization in summer 2023 to report to new Raptors head coach Darko Rajakovic. So, James, what's your reaction to this news? How large should the punishment be for the Raptors here? Let's start there. Assuming that they're guilty, of course.
They should have to listen to every Dubin episode of Locked On Knicks.
Oh, what
in
a
a
shot.
row.
I thought you were going to say JD and the Straight Shot albums or something.
No, I was lower blow, even meaner. I don't know. It's when I first heard it, the things that they're accused of are obviously like insane. It goes way beyond like normal behavior for someone leaving an organization and going to another. The one thing that I think is weird about it that I honestly haven't spent enough time like digging into to have a super informed opinion on, but usually you do mediate these disputes between each other, like with Adam Silver or whoever the commissioner is, like issuing a ruling, and it doesn't really get to a point of being sued in the American legal system. So that does sound like odd and like Knicksy, like this, they're stolen, blah, blah. But I don't know enough about like really what's being alleged here as far as like if they did the right thing or not in doing that. It does strike me as a little odd, but what he did and what he's alleged to do or whatever is wild. So I can kind of see, without being an expert in this area of the law or even in like the CPA and what these guys are like really expected to do when something like this happens, it does seem pretty intensely flagrant and like, come on, like we know like a normal good employee like would have most of this stuff in their head. Like, you know what I mean? Like they would understand kind of like the philosophy behind how they set up these queries in Synergy or whatever, and not need to just give them the login, which is like so blatant that I'm like, okay, I could see why they sued them. I just don't know if they even gave the league a chance, and if they didn't, I'm like, I kind of wish they did, because we would be able to avoid hearing all the people be like, Knicks, and those kind of takes, which are beyond stale at this point. But that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. So, like, I was listening to he'll come up in a second when he asks some mailbag questions of us. But our good friend Schwinny Poo on Pod Strickland did a really cool interview. I didn't get through all of it on my drive home today from work, but I got through a good portion of it. Interviewed a NYU law professor and IP lawyer, Michael Kasdan, and did like a whole live Q&A with him on YouTube and whatever. And I was listening to what Michael had to say about it, and it sounds sort of like he did a little bit of research into it like immediately, because he was like, I'm a Knicks fan and I'm a lawyer and I want to learn about this stuff because that's like what he does for work. But he was like, the league constitutions say that you're supposed to sort of like go through league channels before you pursue something like in the legal system. And there's been some legal precedent for stuff like this. Like there's the most famous one was which I had forgotten about, honestly, until they brought it up during there. But like the Cardinals and the Astros in baseball, where an employee had gone from, I think it was from the Astros to the Cardinals, but it could have been the other way around. I forget, because it wasn't important to me. But there actually was like corporate espionage, like lawsuits that were filed, and the dude ended up like going to jail over that. But this seems a little more benign than that, and more like it's just sort of like a civil suit. And I don't know, maybe this was the Knicks way, where like they just sort of like they brought this stuff up to the league, and the league said, we're not worried about it, or was kind of dragging their feet. And then the Knicks said, well, if you guys are going to drag your feet, then we're just going to make this public, and we're going to file a civil suit, which in the grand scheme of things is worth nothing, because like the Raptors ownership group and Dolan are probably two of the richest owners in the entire NBA. So they're going to be like, what, are we going to like exchange a couple $1 million here, like in a civil suit?
Right.
But this feels more like it was a statement for the Knicks to be like, look at this thing that we're bringing your attention to, and you're not paying attention to it. Maybe just because we're the Knicks, or maybe just because like standards in the league are flawed in this way, and they like don't seem to care about this sort of like stealing of data and stealing of resources and whatever. But I think it's interesting. The Knicks might be, for better or worse, involved in something sort of precedent setting here, I feel like.
I could also see them wanting to send a message to the employee himself who did it, like, because what if the league does punish people, it's probably at the organizational level. Like they'll find the Raptors, they'll dock them a draft pick or whatever, but it's this guy whose name neither of us wants to pronounce for fear of butchering it, who like made it possible. And I could see the Knicks wanting to be like, they want to really discourage someone from doing that again. And so like naming them specifically in a lawsuit, I think, will make a future employee think twice if they know that they could like be held liable. Now I'll say like, I think sending someone to jail for something like this is beyond insane, especially given the way like prisons work in our country. But regardless, like this kind of like this isn't like setting up subprime mortgages that makes millions of people lose their houses or something. Which like like maybe those guys should go to jail. But like basketball secrets, like get real. Come on, like you shouldn't like ruin someone's life for it. But I get wanting to be like, no, we're gonna try to like fiscally punish you if you do something like this, and I think it's fair. I mean, especially how brazen, like to give them the login, and then the Knicks, the Knicks get the Netflix like someone signed in Toronto. Like, do you want to do anything about this? If this is you, ignore this email. It's okay.
Yeah. Can you imagine, like when you get that, like I get it all the time, like from like the Strickland Twitter account, for example. Like if someone logs in on like a new phone or a new computer, it's like someone just logged in from like New Jersey or New York or whatever. And I'll just be like, oh yeah, no big deal. But like, can you imagine just sitting there if you're the Knicks and you get that like the 2-factor authentication email being like, did you just log in Toronto on 6
people
computers?
Talk about Dolan being petty, but if I'm like the IT guy or whatever for the Knicks and I see that, I'd be like, come on.
Yeah, this is just so like
rub my face in it like
this. Exactly.
Like,
like, did you really think that we wouldn't pay attention to that? Like, come on.
Yeah. Log in. Like, give me a break.
Yeah. Well, all the best to the assistant coach whose name is quite frank. I'll give it one more shot. Coach Azatom. Best of luck to you, buddy. You got James Dolan coming after you. I don't know how well that's gonna go, man. I don't know. He's sunk a lot of money into like Charles Oakley even.
They're gonna like murder him in the sphere and broadcast it. They're gonna bury him up to his neck on the floor in the sphere and stone him to death.
I guess we'll see how it all goes. But anyway, all right, let's get into some. We took mailbag questions and we honestly didn't get a ton of response off Twitter, but we got a lot out of the Strickland Discord, and some of them are quite frankly unhinged. There's a lot of food questions because people know that you're a big food guy. So let's take our first little break to quickly remind everybody that today's show is brought to you by Ibotta. And if you're picking up burgers and hot dogs for a summer barbecue, which why would you not? Labor Day's right around the corner. You're already doing it. So why not get cash back for it? You could do that with Ibotta. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop and you can get cash back. It really is that easy. The average Ibotta user earns $120 per year. That could be the cost of an entire shopping trip. Or you could use your cash back to buy that flight you've been eyeing, that game you're dying to go to, or the fancy dinner you've been craving, or that copy of NBA 2K24 you've been wanting to get, which we'll talk about in a minute with James. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you can get real cash back that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta with the code LOCKED when you register. Would you turn down $5 on the street? Then why would you turn it down now? So just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKED. All right, we're back in, and you know what? The token Knicks talk is done, James. It's time to go down memory lane at this point, and we got a bunch of questions that were all similar topic but different framing. So I'll go through all of them real quick at once. Actually, no, not all of them. I'll save the last one for at the end here. But first one comes from Schwinny Poo, where he says, how does James feel about having his legacy so clearly surpassed by his successor to the point that nobody even remembers his days as a host? Conversely, Jax365, who is at Jax365 on Twitter, wants to know, does James think he made the right decision to forward Alex to be one of his replacements on Locked On Knicks? And then Duder Adam, who I believe, so that's his name on our Strickland Discord. I believe he is the Fiend Machine on Twitter. Is it a mere coincidence that James left the Locked On Knicks world just before their return to prominence? Or does James have, quote, loser vibes? So,
Return to prominence.
I don't know
There was no prominence before me.
Yeah, the return implies it was there first. It's the rise to prominence, perhaps, was what he was looking for.
Way to write a sentence, Deuteratom. Congratulations.
Learn to write, buddy. But no, let's take a trip down memory lane a little bit. This is a perfect opportunity for a cheesy, we're 1,500 episodes in the Locked On Knicks now. You're here for about the first, we're guesstimating 400 something of them. What was your favorite Locked On Knicks memory?
Favorite Locked On Knicks memory? It's that's a tough one.
Was it all the times when you had your most illustrious guest, Alex Wolf, come on?
Yeah. It was the friends we made along the way. It does. Honestly, it feels good. Someone framed it like that, you were complete. I think Schwinn is like, no one even remembers when you were host or whatever. I did recommend you to David Locke, and it feels good that you're still here, from a egotistical standpoint. It's like, yeah, my recommendation was a good one. It did pan out. You've done an awesome job. So that feels good. And like any amazing father will tell you, and I am an amazing father. I love you, Dylan. Shouts to my daughter, 2 years old in June. You're proud when your kid surpasses what you accomplished.
So really, you could say that I was your first foray into paparenting, and I prepared you to be a good dad, right?
You're in many ways my son, and so you one day you'll buy me a house. We haven't gotten there yet.
Well, keep waiting, buddy. I'll buy you a casket someday.
Or you contribute to my mortgage, which I still have 28 years left on.
So does mine. What a coincidence.
As far as favorite memories go, no one thing sticks out. It was just it always felt good to interact with fans who enjoyed the show. That it's easy to just sit there and enjoy something and not reach out to people. And so when someone would reach out just to be like, hey, I love what you're doing or whatever, that's legitimately a very nice feeling, because there's a part of you that does it because you want to share your opinions and you love basketball and all those things, but it's also to have an audience and to have an engaged audience that cares and sends you props every once in a while, feels really good. My worst memory was my horrible interview of Frank Ntilikina, which was the only player interview I did the whole time, which was so awkward on a 9-minute delay phone that it was impossible to talk to him. His English wasn't great. I asked him if he had the pizza yet. It was so bad. And it's funny. I happened to, for those who are looking on, who are watching on YouTube, I'm at the end of my laundry, so I'm wearing sports t-shirts, which I don't wear a lot. And I've actually got my number 11, not Jalen Brunson, but Frank Ntilikina jersey on, which I think is the last Knicks jersey that I bought. It's probably time to upgrade that to a Brunson one. But that was probably the all-time low. I was so pumped to get him. It was through I had to talk about Mountain Dew for 8 minutes or something terrible like that in order to get him. But other podcasts weren't getting NBA players. And I was nice, this is a huge get. And then I was just nervous, and it was awkward because I wasn't used to interviewing famous people. And that was that. That one sticks out.
I was actually, when you said I don't know if I have a favorite memory, I was gonna bring it up and be what about the illustrious Frank Ntilikina interview? Just bust your balls a little bit, because I remembered that you didn't love that one.
Oh, I hated it. I did such a bad job. I mean, it's fine. I would have done better if I ever had another player on. That's what happens. You fail, you learn, and you grow. But
I would have had something similar if I had taken over Locked On Knicks from you 2 months earlier. I would have aired the Kevin Knox interview I did, and I had to do something very similar where it was I got invited to go interview him at the Tissot store in.
I remember that.
And it was November. It was
it for Posting and Toasting.
I did that for PNC back then, yeah, and that was during his for like his first season had already started. Like it was like December, like it was a month in, and I'm like, why are we doing this now and not like before the season? I didn't totally understand that. But I like went in and like talked to him and stuff, and that was also like they were like, make sure you ask like something like Tissot related. I'm like, sick. Like I gotta cook up a question about these watches. I don't freaking know.
It's the worst. And if you want to get them, and then you have to advertise it like it was real. You're like, oh yeah, I got like
bro. We're here in the. I think my question is like, we're here in the Tissot store. Like, what's your favorite watch? Or like, what's your favorite thing about this cool watch that has the Knicks?
You were always like a little bit better though with those people in general. Like, I just couldn't help getting nervous, even though like as a man, like I don't really give a about. Sorry to curse again, like Frank Ntilikina, but there was something about just like someone being a celebrity that like made me a little like. I don't know. Like people are looking forward to hearing this or something. It's like I don't think they're better than me, like at all. But like I don't know. I get a little like tongue tied. It's not like or it doesn't come like super naturally to me. You did one. I mean, again, it was one of these like stupid Tissot type ones. But I thought you did one with like Michael Porter Jr. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was same deal.
For Locked On Knicks, I think.
No, that was the PNT too, but I did that before the draft. Yeah,
but I think I used it for the podcast. Maybe that's like during the
you might have
once I was doing the PNT podcast, the Frozen Envelope.
Maybe
that's a deep cut for anyone who remembers that.
I might have sent you some audio files too, like because I did the interview and I think I might have just like sent you my recorder files. I forget, but yeah, I remember.
You did, and I used it for something, so that's why. Like, and I remember being like, "Oh, he's pretty good. He doesn't seem at all like intimidated."
Yeah,
maybe it's easier against Michael Porter Jr., who's like one of the dumbest people in the league.
Well, by that point,
no offense, MTJ. I drafted you in my Locked On Knicks,
dude.
Fantasy.
Wait, I did the accounting on all of our Locked On mock drafts going back to when you started doing them. The Knicks would have a freaking dynasty right now if we had been drafting for them. Like these poor saps in the Locked On NBA mock drafts, dude. Like we've been running circles around them for years. We're light years ahead.
Easy to do that as a mock draft because I could just ignore his injury history.
Yeah,
that was the big thing with him. Like I thought he was immensely talented, and he had, I can't believe he's been as healthy as he has been, given all the insane surgeries he's had and the weird foot things. I don't even know. Like when you read about them, you're like, what? Like how is this guy even walking?
He had really bad back injuries, like before he even stepped foot on an NBA floor.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough about Michael Porter.
Win a championship. Enough about him.
That's enough about Michael Porter, though. All right, before we head into the truly unhinged questions to end this show, what was your favorite nickname you did? This comes from Rokobitis Syndrome in our Discord, who I think is Enemy Wave on Twitter. I know that's what his Discord handle was. I think that's also his Twitter handle.
I think that's correct. Yes.
James, what was your favorite nickname you did during the intros, and why was it Patrick Ewing?
Patrick Ewing was good. I had a bunch that were like one-offs that I thought were really funny, but were like a little too unhinged to use them a lot. And I can't remember what they were. Like those were the ones that I kind of think were the funniest because they were like just weird references to stuff. And again, like great story. I don't have a good reference. I can't think of anything specific, but those were some of my favorites. But the one that I used like all the time that was my favorite was Def Jam Gundy. I liked that it was like an old school reference. I liked that it was
a double
not
old
like
school
an obvious double old school reference. Yeah. That's true.
Def Jam and Jeff Van Gundy.
I was thinking of Van Gundy as that's like how old I am. Like, no, Def Jam's current. Tommy Boy Records, those are all the best.
Death Row, baby.
All right. But yeah, that was I like the rhyme wasn't like super predictable. That one always just I enjoyed that one. Thought that was nice.
Yeah, I was always a big Provolone Ranger guy myself. So
I really like that one, and then someone pointed out that like someone online had like made that pun before me. I was like, that kind of like took the bloom off the rose a little bit. Yeah,
you got there yourself, so it's fine.
We both invented the wheel, just on other sides of the world.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's all it was. Don't down yourself. That was a brilliant invention. Thank you. All right, let's take our final little break here. We'll come back in, and then we've got some food questions because everybody always wants James's food takes because of salting the pasta water and all that good stuff. So we got some food questions coming up next in the last segment of this episode of Locked On Knicks. All right, we're back in. James, we're continuing with some questions here. We got food questions that people wanted to know about because, as a known connoisseur of the culinary arts, your opinion in this field is very respected among former Knicks podcasters. So we need to get your opinion on these. So Duder Adam, who again I believe goes by Fiend Machine on Twitter. This is a lengthy one. This is one that could only come from Discord because it's probably longer than you could do without a blue subscription on Twitter. Adam wants to know, you die. Cool. In the afterlife, you're presented with two doors. One leads to a limitless supply of one Italian dish of your choice. It is perfectly made. I already know what you're going to pick for this question, but I'll keep reading. The other leads to a room where any food you could possibly think of appears before you, but it's all average. You have to exist in the room you choose for the rest of eternity. Two questions. One, which room do you choose? And two, do you think you're in heaven or hell?
Yeah, I don't want to make, Adam feel bad or anything, but I didn't have to think about this one for more than like half a second. And it's, I want everything. Who wants to eat one thing for the rest of their life? You thought I'm going for the one thing?
I thought you were going to pick like one perfectly made Italian dish.
No, hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no.
I'm picking the mid food of everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything versus one thing? No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because average food is still good. It's not bad, at least. It's just not the best thing I've ever eaten. Be like going to Applebee's. Applebee's and Olive Garden,
I would figure out a way to game that system too. Like who's cooking it,
Start making fat sandwiches. Be like, we can
I get to pick the ingredients. You know what I mean? Why is it average? Is it just like a little cold? Like what's going on here?
Yeah. I'm imagining it's just like from a restaurant that you wouldn't necessarily go back to a second time, or like your favorite dive bar that doesn't make the best food, but you still just order the food there because it's convenient kind of thing. I don't know, like that sort of.
Like I don't know. If you're like 12 years old, you could eat one thing for the rest of your life. But like, what am I gonna have a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios every morning?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I did like as a child. I think I had that breakfast for like 8 years in a row.
I used to eat like toaster strudels every day. That's my thing. I was just reminiscing about toaster strudels at work the other day, and the toaster scrambles, which had like eggs and stuff in them. They were really good.
Did you like heat up the that you put on top? Can I say that on Locked On?
No, stop making me take down time codes. Oh God. All right.
The white sauce.
You can fill in the blanks of what you just said. No, you didn't have to heat that part up because the pastry was so warm that it would make the icing, like you would just kind of like heat the icing up in your hands real quick, so it would just like squeeze out of the tube, and then it would melt on top, and then you eat it, and it would be delicious. It was very good. As far as do you think you're in heaven or hell? Obviously, it has to be hell, right? Because allegedly there are no difficult decisions in heaven. Like you would just get bountiful amounts of whatever food you wanted in heaven, right? I would say this is a purgatory thing. This feels like purgatory.
It's definitely not ideal. And like if you can't ever access anything that's like perfect, it's like you're somewhere where someone is like watching you and like controlling things, and there's like no one there who knows how to cook, or if they are, they're not allowed to. So yeah, it's either purgatory or hell. Definitely not heaven.
Yep. In agreement there. All right, let's move to another question here from our buddy Mikey Cooks, who I think is at Mikey Cooks on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. This came from the Discord again, though, Strickland Discord. If you're not the Strickland patron on Patreon, definitely go hit that up, patreon.com/Strickland. But Mikey wants to know two questions. All right, so first question, are we still salting the pasta water in 2023? This is an easy one. Yes, obviously.
Yeah, always.
Always salt the pasta water. It's very good. I salt the I'm devout about that. Like I do that even just like for boxed mac and cheese. Like salt that pasta water. It comes out.
Oh yeah, I do it for anything. Same, and I make a lot of boxed mac and cheese for the kid.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the only thing she'll eat, and I'm like, well, she wants it salty. Of course she does. She's a human being. She wants it to taste good. So.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right, and then what do you think is each Knicks' favorite Italian dish? Oh man, we should probably make this rapid fire because there's so many guys. I'm gonna need to like pull up the roster because
I wish I had time. I saw this earlier and just didn't have time to like think about it. This is one that I would spend way too much time prepping. If I were hosting back in the day, I'd have like a little joke for all of them. But
yeah, I didn't either, but I like just going off the cuff with these sort of questions. So I'm gonna read you names and you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. All right, you ready? RJ Barrett, favorite Italian dish?
Meatball sub.
Wow, that's wild. I was thinking sausage parm. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Sausage parm is probably I like that a little bit better because it's a little like fat boyer. I was going for like a fat boy meal.
All right.
Sausage, you don't see that a lot. Anyway, yeah. Sorry.
What about Dante DiVincenzo? What are we thinking?
Probably like a garlic and olive oil gavadil.
I was thinking like an Alfredo, like fettuccine Alfredo kind of deal.
Okay,
seems like his deal. Seems like he goes pretty hard, like based off all the videos from him and Brunson and all them in college. Seems like DiVincenzo goes pretty hard. I feel like that's a good like day after drinking meal.
Yes, and he definitely wants something from like a trattoria. Like he's not like a fancy boy.
No, he's like he gets a slice of pizza on the side of his pasta kind of thing.
Yes.
All right, let's see. Two-way player Jalen Martin. I feel like I don't know him well enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Like a side of penne with marinara.
Man, you want to talk about guys that weren't born for 9/11? He was born in 2004. He's a baby, man. He's still eating Chef Boyardee. I think that's what Jalen Martin's eating. He's so young. God, these kids these days, they're so young. All right, let's see. Emmanuel quickly.
Veal Parmesan.
That's a good bet.
Over spaghetti.
We're really on the same wavelength. So I was kind of thinking chicken parm, but I like veal. I like the veal better. That's a little classier. Quickly's a fancy boy. He's fancy.
I saw him eating something like really thinly pounded.
Okay.
And I feel like the veal tends to be a little bit thinner.
Veal is definitely a little thinner. Veal is definitely treated more premium too, I feel like.
Yes.
Because it is.
And that's why I think. Because you could pound a chicken thin as, a sheet if you want to. And that's like a good one,
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, Quickly's fancy too. He goes to all those like all white clothes parties and all that crap with all the rappers and everything. So like he's living it up. So I feel like he'd order the veal.
Yeah, he might take his shirt off before he eats too. So he can get it on there.
Definitely. All right, Hartenstein.
Veal ossobuco.
Oh, nice. I'm just gonna go with your answer for that one. That sounds good. I can't think of anything different off the top of my head. Jalen Brunson.
Vegetarian lasagna.
That's actually my choice for Julius because he's very diet conscious. So I'll spoil my Julius pick. I was gonna say like penny vodka with chicken for Jalen.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. All right. Let's do like two more players because this is getting boring already.
Well, rapid fire, you don't really get to expound on why.
All right, Mitchell Robinson.
He gets a lemon Italian ice.
That's actually. I wasn't even thinking. I was thinking spaghetti and meatballs. So that's so much better. That's perfect. All right, lemon Italian ice. All right, Julius Randle. I already said veggie lasagna. What's your pick?
Something annoying. Like one of those pizza cones.
Oh my god! All right, Julius's favorite Italian dish is pizza.
And he asked his photographer to take a picture of him eating it with his wife while they're on vacation
and feeding it to Kaiden.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to our final question here. This comes from Twitter from Gotham Nagesh at G Nagesh on Twitter. This is oddly specific, James, so I don't know what the story is here. Ask James about the time he dropped a piece of hot pizza in the West Village at 2 a.m. and woke up with second-degree burns on his foot.
So Gotham is he's my boy. He's one of my best friends in the world, and I met him in college. And in between, I think our freshman and sophomore year, he was living in the NYU dorms during the summer, and I went to visit him because I lived in New Jersey. And it was great. I could stay out all night in the city and get into all kinds of mischief. And one night we were out, taking liquid cocaine shots and blacking out as we did in those days. And I dropped a piece of pizza on my foot. I was wearing Birkenstocks. And I woke up in the morning, and I guess I didn't do too good a job of getting like the molten hot cheese off of my foot. And I had, not only was my foot burned, but it had like enormous
blisters,
legit 2nd-degree burns. A friend of ours was having a party in Connecticut that night. So instead of like getting it taken care of, I went to Connecticut for this guy's party. Probably got blackout drunk again. Came home the next day, went to my mom and was like, don't be mad, but I think I need to go to the hospital. I've got these massive blisters on my feet. The hospital's like, well, did you go to Famous Ray's? And all these jokes, blah, blah, blah. They had to drain them. I had to like go back to the hospital once a week to have like my wounds dressed. But to this day, I know that Gautam dropped the pizza on my foot, and he claims that I dropped it on my own foot. And so it's like, it's a little inside baseball between me and my boy Gautam. But I did once suffer 2nd-degree burns on my foot, which honestly, like, props to that pizza place, because one of my least favorite things is when you get a slice and like, I'm like, no, keep it in the oven. Like, don't take it out yet. Like, I want that shit hot.
If this won't fucking blister my foot, then I don't even want it. Man, I got so caught up in the moment that now I have to bleep myself.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Let's call it quits for this episode. So thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed that good James anecdote from college to end this one. But we'll be back tomorrow with another episode where we're going to get James's bold prediction for the year. We always get Gavin and Mize, usually like 3 times for off season when we don't have anything to talk about. So we're going to get James's bold prediction for the season to start next episode. We'll talk about James's day job a little bit, whatever he can disclose, working for NBA 2K, get some inside scoop on how cool the game's going to be this year. And then also talk more about food, because people love asking James about food. So that's coming up on tomorrow's edition of Locked On Knicks. But for today, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Peace out, everybody.